Hey roofers, your customers do not care about their roofs. They probably can't even name a shingle manufacturer. And if you don't believe me, ask Tim Brown over at Hook Agency. They posted a video the other day where they walked up to people on the street for like an hour and asked them to name a shingle manufacturer. 0 people could name a shingle manufacturer. It is not a top of mind priority for them. So if customers don't care about their roofs, like how do millions of them get installed each year? It's simple. It's human connection and solving a problem. And if you want to increase your odds of success and your level of customer satisfaction, you have to learn to be different, right? You got to cut through the noise. And, I think the first step in differentiating your company is knowing your customers, right? You need to understand what they want and what they need, so you can personalize your service to meet their needs. Those two things will definitely help you stand out from your competition rather than just like beating them over the head with your sales pitch or sitting them down at the kitchen table for your hour-long presentation. Sure, there's an art and a science to that, but it's deeper than that, right? Now, obviously, they need something fixed on their roof. Maybe it's a repair, maybe it's a full replacement. So you got the needs part covered. But what about what they want? They're not gonna come out and tell you. Hell, they probably don't even know themselves, but there's kind of a handful of safe bets. So I think first, they don't wanna get ripped off, right? Even though almost every contractor I know wakes up and genuinely aims to help people every day, the only stories you hear on the news, they're about contractors defrauding people, running off with the checks, or some other negative bullcrap. So it's your job to make a human connection with your customers. You got to spend the time getting to know them and just trying not to be transactional, right? Ask about their job, their background, the motorcycle in the driveway, the soccer goal in the backyard. Anything that doesn't have to do with the work that you want to perform will help you establish rapport and a connection with them. And I'm not telling you to become some con man looking for things to key in on. I'm telling you to genuinely care about getting to know your customers. This type of rapport with your customers will take you from just another bid that they're getting to a friend that they do business with. The most successful contractors I know are friendly people, right? They become friends with their customers because they genuinely care about their customers. And trust me, doing this, it will result in a more fulfilling experience for not just them, but for you. You will feel like you have friends all over town, all over your community, versus just going out there and trying to get the sale. So keep that in mind. Second, they want to be educated. And obviously they're not going to come out and tell you that, but odds are they aren't roofing experts. So don't just start spewing industry jargon at, right? Ask them questions to get them to open up about what they don't know. Have you ever seen a roof installed? Have you ever wondered how a roof keeps water out of your home? Have you ever wondered what flashing does? Or do you know what a cricket is? Or I don't know, there's a million things you can ask them about the roof in the form of a question that will get them to open up to you. And 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna know the answer and they're gonna be looking at you no, I don't know. Why don't you tell me? And so you're kind of making it their idea, even though you asked them the question, but then they're gonna be looking at you to kind of educate them a little bit about it. And you can say, well, if you got a second, I'd love to tell you. Cool? And they'll be like, yeah, I'm kind of interested about that, right? Or they'll say, I don't care, right? You'll get it, right? But at least you tried. And you don't have to go over the entire roofing process, right? It could be as simple as something like flashing or ventilation. And judging from some of the complete hack jobs in ventilation that I've seen, some of you need to educate yourselves on ventilation. I mean, good Lord. You can't put turtle vents right next to a ridge vent. It kind of defeats the purpose, but that's for another video. So maybe it's not the roofing system. Maybe it's insurance claims. Maybe it's the whole claim process if they've never had to file a claim before. If you can just leave them with a couple of valuable nuggets, that when you leave, they're much more likely to view you as someone who knows what they're talking about, right? And since you did it in a way that asked their permission to educate them, you won't be viewed as this know-it-all douchebag. So keep that in mind too. Number 3, they don't want to be sold. Please. Stop using cheesy closing tactics. You should absolutely have a structured presentation, but it doesn't mean that you have to make it feel like a sales presentation. Your presentation doesn't start when you get at the kitchen table. Your entire visit to the home needs to be part of your presentation. Make it intentional, but make it conversational, right? Start and stop in the middle or tell a story. Control the conversation, but don't speak at them. If you speak at them and you never let them talk, right? And you're just blah, 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 blah. And you're not asking them questions, you're not engaging them in the conversation, probably not listening to you. And they're probably only gonna hear or remember 10% maybe of what you say. So again, usually the best way to get them involved is by asking them questions as they relate to them. So look, this video isn't about sales training, so I'm not gonna keep going on that, but you get the point, right? Be unassuming, go into it trying to make a friend, and 9 times out of 10, you'll know your customers better. The second kind of like idea I want to talk about is differentiating your roofing company. And you can do that by providing quality work and materials, right? Okay, like this is where you get to nerd out a little bit on the how part of why your company is awesome. But trust me, your customers care very little about any of it. If nothing else, you just need to speak confidently during this part, right? They aren't going to remember anything about any technical details or material specs or whatever, right? Whatever you tell them, like they're not gonna remember it. They don't care. They're gonna remember how you made them feel when talking about it. So honestly, I would invest very little time in the technical aspects of this unless you got a DIY Dan for a customer that wants to nerd out with you. Like Dan is the exception to the rule though, trust me. I've talked to thousands of homeowners and the amount of people who give two shits about a sure nail strip or what raw materials are used in making the matting is like less than 5 of those thousands of customers. So if it were me, I'd spend 1 to 2 minutes glossing over the highlights of the material, and then I'd spend 5 minutes talking about how clean you're gonna keep their yard. Touch on why you may use a catch-all. And if you aren't using a catch-all, you need to contact my man Heath Hicks and get one. It'll totally elevate your customer experience just like that. So that's what I wanna talk about next. Mentioning Heath, it actually reminds me of a concept he introduced at a dinner we were at a couple years ago. He called it an 11-star experience, right? What's an 11-star experience? Well, it's a little more than double a 5-star experience. Just kidding. But seriously, do this exercise in your company. Ask your team to give you ideas on what would qualify in their minds as like a 1-star experience, right? And you're gonna get things like nails all over the place, landscaping damage, beer cans in the garbage can, whatever. Then you wanna work your way up to a 5-star experience. What would that look like? They're gonna say things like a clean yard, a catch-all in full effect, neighbors notified of the noise and business cards handed out, whatever. Thank you note after the job. But then this is where it gets interesting. You got to start pushing your team towards answering the 11-star experience questions. You jump from 5 to 11. Force them to get super creative, as if money was no object and you could deliver any experience you wanted. Like, what would it be? Would it be sending them on a vacation, sending them an amazing anniversary gift, free oil changes for a year, free window cleaning after a year, sponsoring their kids' baseball team, I don't know, buying them a month's worth of meal prep, whatever. It, like, let your imagination run wild as possible. Surely you're gonna get some funny and outlandish ideas, but somewhere in there, you're gonna discover 2 or 3 things that are totally doable and that you've never even considered before. Ideas that will leave your customers with like this pattern interrupt that's so powerful that they will never forget what it felt like working with your company. In 2 years, your customer won't remember what brand of shingle you used. They will never forget the Eagles concert tickets you bought them after seeing a poster hanging on the wall. Emotions, not information. Okay, so I want to talk about one more way you can differentiate your roofing company, and that's through branding and marketing. And this is what everybody kind of gets wrapped up on, but like it's pretty important, right? I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this because it really pales in comparison to the other things that I've mentioned, but it is important to have a professional brand. Ben Morrow from Roof Tiger actually gave a stellar presentation in this Roofing Insights video about standing out from the crowd. And Seth Godin also wrote an incredible book called Purple Cow, you should read it, on how to stand out from the crowd by being remarkable. From truck wraps to billboards to like a branded catch-all, there are no shortage of ways to stand out in a sea of competitors, right? Like you can do all kinds of things. I'll do that in a separate video. But in an industry that still has professionals who use Gmail, Yahoo, and AOL email addresses, the bar has not been set very high depending on what market you're in, right? It doesn't take that much to elevate yourself above the competition. And a good brand is actually an emotional entity. It's not just your logo or your website. It's the emotional response that lives inside people in your target market when they think about your company. And it stems from how you go about crafting your strategy on how you're going to make them feel. Not what you're gonna tell them, what you're gonna educate them on. That's important, but like you gotta make them feel something. You gotta make sure that you give that some thought and get creative with it, right? Okay, look, I know we've talked about knowing your customers, providing quality work and materials, creating an amazing customer experience, and branding and marketing your company effectively. But look, consistently focusing on these things, you can actually set yourself apart from your competitors, attract more customers, and just all around run a better business. So I encourage you, take these steps, get creative with your team, and differentiate your roofing company. Let me know in the comments which step you found most helpful. And please don't forget to subscribe and like our channel for more tips on running a successful roofing company. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.